getting fired or getting blamed or shamed or threatened or anything like that simply for reporting sexual misconduct or safety threats at work is not okay.
So Will Smith is getting sued by a violinist from his tour, and when I tell you what this lawsuit alleges, it's absolutely wild. We're talking about a hotel room intrusion, mysterious items left behind including HIV medication, and a note signed Stone F, and allegations that Will Smith was grooming this musician. This isn't just a simple wrongful termination case. The details are legitimately disturbing, and Will Smith is denying everything. So let's break down exactly what happened, because this story is insane. What's up everyone? Welcome back to another video. But if you're new to the channel and enjoy celebrity deep dives or keeping up with the latest news out of Hollywood, consider subscribing and joining me on my quest to 1,000 subscribers. Thank you for watching. Now let's get into it. Okay, so first things first. The person suing Will Smith is Brian King Joseph, a professional electric violinist who actually competed on America's Got Talent back in 2018. He made it to the finals, so this isn't just some random person trying to get fame. Brian's got legitimate credentials in the music industry. Now here's how this all started. According to the lawsuit, Will Smith hired Brian in November 2024 to perform at a show in San Diego. They apparently hit it off because Will invited Brian to join his Based on a True Story 2025 tour and even asked him to play on tracks for his upcoming album. This was a huge opportunity for Brian, right? Working with one of the biggest stars in entertainment. The lawsuit was filed on December 30th in Los Angeles County Superior Court. It names both Will Smith and his management company, Trayball Studios Management Inc., as defendants. Brian is accusing them of wrongful termination, retaliation, and sexual harassment. But there's the thing that makes this case so unusual. Will Smith isn't being accused of directly harassing Brian. The allegations are way more complicated and frankly, way more disturbing than that. According to the lawsuit, as Brian and Will worked together, they started spending more time alone, and this is where the grooming allegations come in. The lawsuit claims that Will Smith told Brian, "You and I have such a special connection that I don't have with anyone else." The legal filing says Will made other similar comments that suggested unusual closeness between them. Brian's lawyer is arguing that these comments, combined with what happened later, show a pattern of Will allegedly grooming and priming Brian for sexual exploitation. Here's where things get absolutely crazy. The centerpiece of this entire lawsuit is what happened in Las Vegas in March 2025. Will Smith was performing at the House of Blues at Mandalay Bay, and Brian was there as part of the tour. Before we get into the hotel incident, there's an important detail. Brian's bag, which had his hotel room key in it, allegedly went missing for hours. The lawsuit says tour management lost it and spent a long time trying to locate it. Later that night, Brian returned to his hotel room around 11 p.m., and what he found was disturbing. According to the lawsuit, someone had entered his room without any signs of forced entry. Hotel security later confirmed there were no signs the door had been forced open, which means whoever got in had access to a key. Now here's what Brian allegedly found in his room. There were wipes, a beer bottle, a red backpack, and an earring. But it gets worse. He also found a bottle of HIV medication with someone else's name on it, and hospital discharge paperwork for a person he didn't know. And then there was a handwritten note. The note was addressed to him by name and said, "Brian, I'll be back no later, 5:30 p.m. Just us," with a drawn heart. It was signed Stone F. Brian says in the lawsuit that when he saw all of this, he feared that an unknown person was going to return to his room to engage in sexual acts with him. Think about how terrifying that would be. You come back to your hotel room and find evidence that someone's been in there, left personal items, left medication, and left you a note basically saying they're coming back for you. So Brian did exactly what you're supposed to do. He immediately took photos of everything. He called hotel security. He contacted the non-emergency police line to report it, and he told Will Smith's representatives what had happened. He was freaked out, he felt threatened, and he wanted protection and answers. Here's the critical part that forms the basis of the retaliation claim. According to the lawsuit, hotel security confirmed that there were no signs of forced entry. They told Brian that the only people who would have access to this room were members of Will Smith's management team, since they're the ones who booked the hotel rooms for everyone. Days later, Brian got a call from someone on Will Smith's team, and instead of the tour management being concerned about Brian's safety or investigating who entered his room, they allegedly accused him of making the whole thing up. The lawsuit quotes the representative as saying, "Everyone is telling me what happened to you is a lie. Nothing happened, and you made this whole thing up." Brian says he was asked why he lied about it, and then he was fired. They told him he was no longer needed on the tour and that they were moving in a different direction. But here's what makes the retaliation claim stronger. According to the lawsuit, right after Brian was fired, Will Smith's team hired another violinist to fill the exact same position on the tour. So it wasn't that they didn't need a violinist anymore, they just didn't want Brian anymore. The lawsuit argues this proves that the termination was retaliation for reporting the hotel incident, not a legitimate business decision. So what has Will Smith said about all this? His attorney put out a statement that was pretty forceful. He said, "Mr. Joseph's allegations concerning my client are false, baseless, and reckless. They are categorically denied, and we will use all legal means available to address these claims and to ensure that the truth is brought to light." That's a strong denial. Will Smith's legal team isn't trying to downplay this or stay quiet. They're calling the allegations false and saying they're going to fight hard. But here's what makes the situation so interesting. The lawsuit doesn't directly accuse Will Smith of entering Brian's hotel room or leaving those items. What it's saying is that Will Smith was allegedly grooming Brian, and that when Brian reported the hotel intrusion, Will Smith and his team retaliated by firing him instead of protecting him. And this is coming at a really complicated time for Will Smith. Let's talk about where his career has been. Y'all remember the Oscars slap in 2022? That was one of the most shocking moments in live television history. Will Smith walked up on stage and slapped Chris Rock in front of millions of people during the Academy Awards. The fallout was massive. He resigned from the Academy, got banned from the Oscars for 10 years, and faced serious professional consequences. Since the Oscars incident, Will has been trying to rebuild. He released his album, based on a true story, in March 2025, and went on a global tour to support it. That tour is actually what Brian was hired for. Will performed in Las Vegas on March 20th, 2025 at the House of Blues, which is when this whole hotel incident allegedly happened. Then he performed at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles a few days later. The official international tour kicked off in June in Morocco. So Will Smith was in the middle of what was supposed to be his big comeback. The album, the tour, everything was designed to show that he's moved past the Oscars drama and is focusing on his music career again. And now this lawsuit drops, bringing a completely different set of allegations that could derail all of that progress. Now, Brian King Joseph hasn't just filed this lawsuit and stayed silent. Before the lawsuit became public, he posted a video on Instagram talking about what happened, though he couldn't get into all the details because it was already becoming a legal matter. In the video, Brian said, "Earlier this year, I was hired to be a performer on a major tour with somebody who was huge in the industry. So I was excited, proud of myself for getting the opportunity. Unfortunately, some things happened, and I can't get into all the details exactly of what that was because it's already a legal issue right now." He captioned the video as an important PSA and told his followers to stay safe out there and always stand up for your beliefs and what is right no matter what. He also said, "I know that there's a lot of people out there who have been afraid to speak up, and I understand, and if that's you, I see you." Brian's lawyer has been pretty vocal too. He's the same attorney who's handling sexual assault civil suits against Tyler Perry, so he's got experience with high-profile entertainment industry cases. The lawsuit he filed for Brian is incredibly detailed and makes some very serious claims about Will Smith's behavior and intentions. The lawsuit itself makes multiple legal claims under California law. Brian is suing for retaliation in violation of the Fair Employment and Housing Act, retaliation under California Labor Code, wrongful termination in violation of public policy, sexual harassment in violation of the Fair Employment and Housing Act, and violations of the Bain Act and the Ralph Act, which are California civil rights laws. Those last two deal with intimidation and retaliation based on things like sex or perceived sexual orientation. Here's the legal theory behind all of this. Even though Will Smith allegedly didn't personally enter Brian's hotel room, the lawsuit is arguing that Will was grooming Brian, that someone with access through Will's management team entered that room, and that when Brian reported it as a safety and sexual harassment concern, he was punished for it. Under California law, if an employer retaliates against someone for reporting harassment or safety issues, that's illegal. The retaliation itself is a violation. What could happen with this lawsuit? There are basically three possible outcomes. First, it could go to trial, which means all the evidence comes out publicly and both sides fight it out in court. Second, they could settle out of court. That's actually the most common outcome for cases like this. Will Smith might decide the publicity of a trial isn't worth it, even if he thinks he'd win. Third, the case could get dismissed if Will Smith's team convinces a judge the claims don't have legal merit, though that's difficult with a lawsuit this detailed. The impact on Will Smith's career is a big question. He survived the Oscars slap, which is probably the biggest crisis of his career up to this point. He's been working his way back, but these allegations are different. In the current cultural climate, where there's so much attention on workplace harassment, power dynamics, and the Me Too movement, these kind of allegations get taken very seriously. Now, it's important to note that Will Smith isn't being directly accused of sexually harassing Brian in the traditional sense. He's not accused of physically touching him inappropriately or making explicit sexual propositions. The allegations are about grooming, about making inappropriate comments regarding their special connection, and then about retaliating when Brian reported the hotel intrusion. But the lawsuit is trying to paint a picture of predatory behavior, and that's serious. For Brian King Joseph, coming forward is a huge risk. He's going up against one of the most famous people in the world. Will Smith has millions of fans, enormous resources, and a legal team that's clearly prepared to fight hard. The internet can be brutal to people who make allegations against beloved celebrities. The power dynamic here is massive. Bryan was a contractor trying to build his career. Will Smith is a global superstar with connections throughout the entire entertainment industry. Speaking up takes real courage, because there's always the risk of being seen as difficult to work with. But Bryan's not just making vague accusations on social media. He's filed a detailed legal complaint with specific dates, specific incidents, and specific evidence like the note and the items left in his room. He's documented everything. He took photos, he reported it to hotel security and police in real time, not months or years later. That level of documentation and immediate reporting strengthens his credibility. The lawsuit claims that Bryan suffered severe emotional distress, PTSD, economic loss, and reputational harm because of all of this. He says his health deteriorated and he developed mental illness as a result of being fired and the stress of the whole situation. He's seeking compensatory damages, punitive damages, and attorney's fees. Looking at Bryan's background, he's not some nobody trying to get famous. He competed on America's Got Talent in 2018 and made it to the finals. He's a legitimate musician with a real career that he's now putting at risk by filing this lawsuit against one of the most powerful people in entertainment. That suggests he genuinely believes what he's alleging happened to him. The lawsuit is still in the early stages. There will be discovery, where both sides exchange documents and evidence. There will be depositions where people give sworn testimony. Some of this could leak or be reported on, which means we might get even more details about what allegedly happened. For people in the entertainment industry, this case is being watched closely. It's a test of whether someone can successfully sue a major star for retaliation after reporting what they believe was a sexual harassment threat. If Bryan wins or gets a substantial settlement, it could embolden other people who have experienced similar situations to come forward. These cases set precedents about what happens when people speak up about workplace issues in Hollywood. The big question that hasn't been answered is who Stone F is. Who left that note? Who left those items in Bryan's hotel room? The lawsuit alleges it was someone connected to Will Smith's management team, since they were the only ones with key access. That's something that will likely come out during the legal process. What we know for sure is that Bryan King Joseph has filed a serious legal complaint with specific, documented allegations. He's not making vague claims. He's got photos, police reports, hotel security reports, and a timeline that can be verified. Will Smith is fighting back hard, calling everything false and baseless. One side is lying. Either Bryan is making up a horrifying story about being threatened in his hotel room and getting fired for reporting it, or Will Smith and his team did exactly what Bryan says they did. The legal process will hopefully reveal the truth. Will Smith is trying to continue his career comeback while dealing with this lawsuit. He's got his tour, his music, his various business ventures, but now he's also got depositions and legal motions and a lawsuit that's going to keep his name in the news for reasons that could seriously damage his reputation. After spending years trying to rebuild from the Oscar slap, this is not the narrative he wants to be dealing with. So where does this leave us? We've got disturbing allegations involving a hotel intrusion, a note signed by someone called Stone F, HIV medication, and personal items left in Bryan's room, and claims that Bryan was fired for reporting it all. We've got Will Smith's team denying everything and promising to fight. And we've got a legal process that could take months or years to resolve. What do you think about all this? Do you believe Bryan's allegations? Or do you think Will Smith is telling the truth when he says this is all false? Let me know in the comments below. And make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell because this story is definitely going to develop and you're going to want to stay updated. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.